This video is requested by many of you, so enjoy! English has a very sentimental and spiritual value to me, so when I talk about how I learned English, I have to share my personal story and spiritual belief for each of my tips to actually make sense to you, and also so that you can apply them in your own learning and in your own life as well. So please stay with me even though the video is a bit long. First of all, to those of you who are just tuning in, I am Korean, born and raised. I finished all my education in Korea, which means my mother tongue is Korean and English is my second language. And the question I get the most from people is, where did you learn English? To which I find quite difficult to answer because there are so many things that influence my English to be at the level it is now that it's difficult to pinpoint just one. But recently, I came up with the best answer I could give, and it's that I don't approach English academically. I approach it creatively. I don't consider English something to master to earn practical benefits, but rather a collaborator with which I can explore my curiosity and creativity and live a more colorful life. So basically, I consider everything I do or create with English an art, whether it be conversation, jokes, flirtation, essays, letters, videos, and so on. So to constantly improve my spoken and written English, which are for me my art, my creation, I need three things: inspiration, creativity, and hard work. I should first be inspired to keep on bettering my English. Like, I need to have a strong enough why I should keep up, because without it, it's hard to make constant effort. And after the inspiration is taken care of, during the actual process of learning and using English, I need to combine my creativity and hard work to produce the best result I possibly can. So first, let's talk about inspiration. Where does inspiration come from? How do you become inspired to improve English? No, wait, what does inspiration even mean? So inspiration is kind of like motivation, but these two are quite different. Similar in a sense that they both trigger the drive and willingness to do something, but I would say inspiration is a much stronger, deeper, and yet more peaceful type of motivation because it touches deep inside our soul. Inspiration in Korean is 영감, and in Chinese it's靈感, and each character in Hangul means soul and feel. It means the soul feels. So inspiration is not just at a mind or thought level, it transcends it. It's at a soul level. And when the willingness to do or create something comes from deep within your soul, then the doing, the creating process cannot but become more ardent, joyful, and creative than when it comes from mind level motivation. And you're probably wondering, then how exactly does it feel different between when my desire to improve English comes from a mere motivation or when it comes from inspiration? And that's a good question. So at this point, let me share my own English learning history. I started learning English when I was 7 years old. I was in second grade, and I started mainly because my mom forced me to, and I was too scared of her to disobey. So I had no choice but to study very hard. But despite all the stress I felt, my hard work did pay off. I was able to speak English with quite good American accent. I won a lot of awards in national English contests, and I also earned the reputation in my schools as a 영어 잘하는 애, which literally means a kid whose English is good. And that was my title that I took great pride in as a kid, and that was also what a lot of people remembered me by. But despite good English, I would say my English was never practically good because I never used it practically. It was mostly for grade, contest, my pride, my mom's pride, and I didn't even have any native English-speaking friends. And even if I did have a chance to meet some of them, I still couldn't communicate that well. It never turned into a meaningful or intimate conversation. So basically, I was full of linguistic knowledge, but I never really put them into good use, the way English English is supposed to be used. My English remained like that till my sophomore year in college, and in my junior year, I finally got the chance to experience long-term life abroad in the US. There, I experienced firsthand the culture shock, culture misunderstanding, frustration and embarrassment that came from all that, all of which ultimately turned into an enchantment and admiration. I was enchanted by how laid back and free of a life people there seem to have compared to my life back in Korea that was more focused on getting good grade, climbing social ladder, worrying about my social image. But people here were more interested in making food together, throwing parties, dancing, hiking, and actually going out there and do stuff. I just loved how people actively tried to go after what they found fun and enjoyable, which is somewhat less common in Korea because Koreans are culturally conditioned to consider their social reputation way more important than their personal fun. And so I was smitten with the fun-oriented, F what others think culture, which I later on found out that is not necessarily an American culture. It was just the culture of that particular town I was fortunate to be a part of. But anyway, through that, I've realized that there is so much more to this world than the place I have grown up in, and that there's so many ways of living a life, and it doesn't have to be in the way people back home live. And I would say that's when my motivation to improve English became stronger. I wanted to travel more parts of the world, communicate with and befriend people from different backgrounds. So I desperately wanted to overcome the language and cultural barrier I had as a native Korean speaker when it comes to speaking and comprehending English. And accordingly, I worked hard and my English improved a lot. I was able to have more intimate conversation, got used to slangs, and started making my own jokes in English. It wasn't excellent, but I could feel it was getting better day by day. But it wasn't until I became very passionate about studying spirituality and philosophy and started devouring thought-provoking books and literature that my English started taking a whole new different level. It entered a new realm and improved exponentially. So how is that possible, you may ask? So most literature, articles, speech, videos that inspired me a great deal and opened my eyes were in English, and the stronger the emotional impact something has on you, the longer it stays in your head. So all the English vocabulary, sentence structures, expressions in all those books and materials naturally took their place in my head and my mind, and as a result, my English vocabulary span doubled, tripled, quadrupled, and I got much more hang of English language usage. Not only that, I became an inspired learner. So before reading books became my passionate hobby, I was more of a motivated learner, not an inspired learner. I was motivated to keep up with English because I wanted to have more fun, make my social life cooler, and possibly get a good job too. So the motivation mostly came from wanting to satisfy and fulfill my own ego. But what's different about an inspired learning is that you are willing to learn out of pure joy. You learn not because you have to or you are aware beforehand of the external advantages you'll get out of it, but mostly because you love it so much, because with it, you can savor the life to the fullest. As I said earlier, with English, I can better explore my curiosity and creativity, and that adds so much color into my life. Not only that, I get to meet and connect with more people in a more intimate level and talk about more deep, hilarious, and interesting things. So that's how I get to stay inspired to keep up with English, which is essential when it comes to English improvement. And let's move on to the second element, creativity. So it doesn't matter what level of English you speak. You can be creative with your English starting from now. You don't have to wait until you reach an advanced level to start creating with English. And by creating, I mean forming your own spoken and written English. Your creation can vary. It can simply be a casual conversation, it could be your diary, status you post on social media, or even text messages that you send to your friends or maybe someone that you like. And here are 5 tips to better your creativity when using English. First, imitate before you innovate. They say imitation is the mother of creation. Some people disagree with this quote, which is silly because that's how all of us learned our mother tongue, by imitating. Think about it, when we were babies, we didn't know anything about language. But we gradually picked up words and sentences from our parents, neighbors, TV shows, and based on them, we started forming our own language to express our needs, thoughts, and feelings. And it becomes more and more advanced and unique as we grow older and get more chances to use the language. And the same goes with your second language. If you find creating with your second language difficult at first, which is absolutely natural, you can start by mimicking what native speakers say and copying good writing. What I did and still do is to copy some parts of the book that I find impressive, funny, or refreshing, inspiring on my notebook. It could also be lines from the movie, jokes that you find hilarious on TV shows, inspiring quotes from TED Talk, interesting comments you find on social media, etc. And when it comes to mimicking, which is copying spoken words this time, there is a better term for it, and it's called shadowing. What it means is while you are listening, you attempt to repeat what you hear as quickly as you hear it. And this works wonders. This is what I did when I was a kid. And that is also how I got to develop the accent that I have now. And likewise, it's so much fun and helpful if you practice with the listening material that you find interesting, impressive, inspiring, and fun. Because like I said, the more something has emotional impact on you, the easier it becomes for you to focus and the longer it stays in your memory. Second, focus on authenticity than originality. This means focus on what you are going to say more than how you're going to say it. I know I said imitate, but notice that I said imitate before you innovate. So you can feel free to practice by copying and shadowing, but during the actual process creating, you have to forget about the craft, how sophisticated, witty, smart, grammatically perfect you'll sound, because that's likely gonna block your creativity. But rather, focus on what you're going to say or write. In other words, your authentic thoughts and opinions. It could be your hobby, it could be your opinion about a book or a movie or a person or an event. And when you are keen on talking or writing about your genuine interest, you will intuitively choose vocabularies and expressions as you deem fit. And with more practice, you will also get to a level where they spontaneously just come out. And the more you use your authentic voice, you'll gradually realize it has so much more power than your superficial voice. And interestingly, when authenticity is there, a lot of the times originality or excellence comes naturally. So I would say authenticize your way into fluency, because that for some reason works. Third, there is no right or wrong. Unless you hurt or legitimately offend someone, it's okay in whatever creative way you choose to speak or write English, as long as the meaning is delivered correctly. I love to be very creative with my own spoken and written English, and I try not to withhold. And many people love it, but sometimes some people will go like, "Don't say like that, that was a bit cringy." But for me, it's like, whatever, I'm having fun exploring and trying out the depth of my second language. And if you have a problem with that, I don't know, just go try learning your own second language, then you'll understand me. And I can feel that the more I withhold and be less creative in my usage of language, the more my language ability shrinks. So if you want to improve your English, it's better to be creative and allow yourself to have your own fun with English than to worry about sounding weird or flaky. Fourth, be brave. Please know that everything comes with a price. If you want to learn a new skill or a new language, it's not gonna come as easily as downloading an attachment from your email. Learning a new skill comes with a cost, and the cost is discomfort. I have put myself in a lot of uncomfortable situations, and yes, some of them turned out to be a very embarrassing anecdote, but even if I'm given the choice, I wouldn't go back and undo it, because those all together piled up helped me learn and experience so much. So you have got to sacrifice your laziness and wanting to stay in your comfort zone if you really want improvement. One tip I want to suggest is to challenge yourself every day to do one thing that scares you using English. And it could be anything that feels scary and intimidating. To give you one of my own examples, I wrote handwritten letters and emails to YouTubers, some millionaires, authors in English. And many of them don't reply back, but some do, sometimes with very sweet words that I appreciate so much. But regardless of the consequences, the process itself is exciting, and it's a chance for me to use English more creatively. 5. Persevere. And this is where the third element, hard work, comes into play. Your English or any skill isn't going to improve in just a short period of time or without enough effort. But I think the progress becomes the fastest if you forget about even making the progress and focus entirely on the work itself, however frustrating it feels at times. Work on it like that day by day, and there will come a day when you will find yourself having improved so much, and you'll go like, whoa, did I just say that? Whoa, did I just write that? So yeah, there's going to be a lot of struggles and frustration, but learn to enjoy and embrace the process and have fun with it. Your English will never be perfect, and it doesn't have to be. And that's the best part, because that lifts so much burden off of your shoulders. So Korean and English are both very strong part of my identity now, and both have shaped the person I am today. They're like my mom and dad, whose combination gave birth to me. So there are some parts of me that are developed from English language and some other parts that are developed from Korean language. And I retreat back and forth to each language and culture whenever I feel like it. Sometimes the feelings I feel and opinions I have are better expressed through English, and other times through Korean. And alternating two languages help organize my thoughts and understand myself better. I used to be grumpy and think that it's very unfair for Koreans when it comes to learning English compared to other language speakers, because two languages and cultures are so different to begin with. However, now I know I was too quick to judge, because there are so many hidden benefits. The bigger the difference between your first language and your second language is, although learning process is more challenging, it can be a lot more exciting, thrilling, and creative, because you get to experience two very different worlds, and that stimulates your brain more, and you get to use more of your brain power and feel the rush of adrenaline whenever you use the language. And that's where all the juice and charm of learning a foreign language comes from. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please click the like button and share this video with whomever is learning English, and come subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And thank you so much for requesting to talk about this topic. I had so much fun organizing my thoughts and writing the script. I wish all of you ESL speakers good luck on your creative journey with English.